Good day, folks. Everything new under the sun. It is Friday, May 26th. The Ukrainian counteroffensive, where is it? Did it happen already? Those may be the questions that you have, and I have them as well. Seems to have stalled, but this is from Russia Today, and of course, you got to recognize that there's propaganda and bias no matter what location you go to for information. Ukrainian officials send mixed signals on counteroffensive. Has it started? Has it not? Government officials made contradictory claims on whether the much-anticipated counteroffensive against Russian forces has begun. Leadership in Kiev has insisted for several months that the country is preparing to drive enemy forces from its territory. Speaking to Bloomberg, Igor Zavka stated that Ukraine will further be preparing counteroffensive. Let me scroll down there so you can see that. He explained that the operation will commence once Kiev has received all the necessary weapons from its backers, including long-range artillery, ammunition, and battle tanks. So apparently what's happening is that ammunition and hardware is not there yet. They were expecting a big shipment of it. Now one has to ask, is part of this delivery of F-16s, was that one of their big things? And was the U.S. Really kind of trying to wait for the right moment to spring it on the world, that it would okay and green light the delivery of F-16s from the U.S., but also other NATO countries that have the F-16s, so that they would have, some sort of air offensive option there as part of the offensive. So apparently it's not started yet. If it did start, then it was an absolute flop. But all signs lead to, that the offensive basically never did start and that it's still coming if there is something coming. Now, this offensive has to bring shock and awe and a significant amount of success. Otherwise, the U.S. has basically stated, you know what, if this doesn't turn out to be something that gains territory, looks impressive effectively, almost for the voters, then we're going to pull our money out. Basically, the public is losing confidence, losing interest. They're not seeing any progress. And so Biden and other NATO countries are losing the support of the civilians, the citizens who vote them into power for this war, which means there will be no interest going forward in continuing on. Another RT article, U.S. is preparing Ukrainian counteroffensive for months, says Newland. So U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Newland, Washington has been helping to plan the Ukrainian counteroffensive against Russia for almost half a year. Even as you planned for the counteroffensive, which we had been working on with you for some 4 to 5 months, we are already beginning discussions with the Ukrainian government and with friends of Kiev, both on the civilian side and on the military side, about Ukraine's long-term future. Now, are they building into it some sort of peace agreement, some sort of settlement with Russia? And you have to think that time is running out quickly. Time is running out for this counteroffensive. Time is running out for public support of this by all NATO nations, and especially the United States. Money is running out. And if this doesn't occur, that's it. I think the U.S. is going to push for some sort of peace deal. This one is interesting. German man sentenced to 3 years in prison. For what? Well, he was pro-Russian, apparently. Pro-Russian rhetoric. He was making political statements and related to the war in Ukraine. And what happened? Well, he was hit with a hate speech law, which sentenced him. The sentence was a stiff penalty given that reportedly for supporting Russian aggression charged with was tacked. Let me start again. The sentence was a stiff penalty given that reportedly the supporting Russian aggression charge was tacked onto an existing illegal weapons possession charge that he already had a criminal record for. But this idea of hate speech and being on a side of the war, and I would suggest that this isn't much different than World War II or for what is it? Script hoppers, conscription skippers. People who didn't want to go to a war in World War II. They were effectively, court-martialed, sentenced to jail. Whatever the repercussions were, they were significant if you wanted to get out of the conscription. And I think this is going to be coming down. History repeats itself, so everything that happened prior is going to happen again. This is an interesting one, and it's interesting development in the war. Let me just bring this to the center here. There we go. Excuse me. Nukes already being transferred to. I'm going to scroll up here. Lukashenko, so of Belarus. Nukes already being transferred to Belarus. Now, this is a significant development because if Russia was getting ready for a nuclear war, they would move nukes and spread them out as far as they can and to all the countries, that they could move them into, that they had agreements with, so as to ensure a first strike or ensure that a second strike, a retaliatory strike, was possible, because you'd have to, NATO nations would have to hit so many nuclear silos across a huge swath of land, Russia and Belarus, that it would be hard to take everything out. Despite urgent warnings from U.S. and Western allies, Moscow's moving forward with plans to station tactical nuclear weapons in neighboring Belarus. So we've heard about this for, probably a couple months now, but they are doing it. The two longtime allies, which form what they call a Union State, signed a deal Thursday to formalize deployment of Russian nukes on Belarusian soil. So nuclear weapons on the move. And what does the U.S. say? Well, they say that this is not an indication that the United States is getting ready for war. It is unclear how many nuclear weapons will be kept in Belarus. The U.S. government believes Russia has 2,000 tactical nukes. NATO calls this an irresponsible and dangerous escalation. Belarus hosting Russian nuclear weapons would mean irresponsible escalation and threat to European security. Belarus can stop it. It's their choice, they said. All right, let's go on. The U.S. is coming out and saying, well, they don't think this is a sign that that Russia is planning to start nuclear war. They're just shifting some of their tactical nukes, but you take it as you will. Now, this is a significant one, and this has been in the news a couple of days, past week. Chinese hackers spying on key U.S. infrastructure. They've infiltrated significant software and infrastructure. A group of state-sponsored Chinese hackers have been conducting a sophisticated surveillance operation on key U.S. infrastructure, and this is a claim by Microsoft. Now, this is RT, but this has come out in mainstream media. There's other articles, so this is a well-known thing. Microsoft said mitigating this attack could be challenging, and that Beijing was making efforts to reduce Washington's ability to communicate with the Asian region. Excuse me, guys, I'm a little bit sick, but this is significant because if they do go to World War III, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to take out communications. This was said by an expert on the Canadian Preppers channel months ago. What are the first signs that World War III is about to start? They effectively take out your communications. That includes satellites first, probably. But there would be a coordinated and asymmetric attack on any sort of communication facilities. And Microsoft is saying this could be hard to stop. They've got their fingers and their tentacles so far deep that this could be indeed a difficult thing to prevent. And what do just before you start World War? You take out communications, and now China has basically said, they're well far along. Russia has likely said to Russia, you know what, when you're ready, we can take out communications. The tech company also claimed to have assessed with moderate confidence that this Volt Typhoon campaign was pursuing the development of capabilities that could disrupt critical communication infrastructure between the United States and Asia region during a future crisis. So indeed, they're getting ready for a future crisis, i.e. World War III. The stage is being set by China, and I think now that this information is coming out, I think you can say that they're ready to go. They are ready to destroy all communications. Remember, Russia was surveying all the fiber optic lines and communication lines up around in the North Atlantic there, and up around Finland and Sweden there, because what are they going to do when World War III starts? They're going to sever all communications, and now China has the ability to do that digitally with technology. Microsoft added that it believed the Volt Typhoon campaign to be targeting a range of U.S. infrastructure sectors, including communications, manufacturing, utility, transportation, construction, maritime, government, information and technology. They're taking out all of our communications, folks. What happens when you take away all our technology? We go back to life as it was 100 years ago. ATMs don't work. Cell phones don't work. Cars don't work. A lot of cars, especially Teslas, they need to be on the network for them to work. If they're not on the network, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they have trouble, actually starting. I don't know if they work without being connected either by satellite or otherwise, because they have to authenticate with Tesla headquarters. So you have all these things with I don't think they're going to use an EMP. I think they're literally just going to cut our fiber lines and take out communications just with old-fashioned hacking. And apparently they have that ability now. And Microsoft is submitting that doing anything about this is going to be challenging. Remember, all their communication is controlled. Microsoft doesn't come out and say something if the problem isn't dire, because the U.S. isn't going to want to look bad. The U.S. isn't going to want to give away any information. They're going to say, yeah, everything's awesome. We can manage it. We can control it. But no, Microsoft is saying out loud that this is going to be a problem. And so the first thing they're going to take out really is communications, cell phones. Remember that the U.S. Congress, they just all received satellite phones. Why? First time ever, as far as I know, for them to bulk distribute satellite phones. That's because the U.S. government, secret services, recognize an existential threat to the communication infrastructure in the United States, and therefore, folks need satellite phones to communicate should this go down. And that should be a significant event for you, the fact that all senators now have satellite phones. They know something's coming down the pipe that can take out all, maybe because of this, it could take out all communications. And if that happens, there's going to be martial law, folks. There's going to be military on the ground. And there's not going to be enough military to go overseas because they're all going to be on the ground. They're going to lock you in your house. There's going to be lockdowns when communication goes down. And you're going to have to go back to listening to your radio for updates from the government about what you can do. That's if that even works at that point in time. But I can't stress this enough. Communications being taken out, and we're ripe and ready for it. Microsoft agrees, and they don't even think that we can. It's not likely that we can do much about this. So let's see. Over to Israel, there was an interesting situation here. Something happened where all of a sudden Israeli officials had to come out and say, you know what, we're not going to war with Iran immediately. There was a hubbub. Now, I was reading this article last night. Now, I can't get to it because of a paywall. But a flood of statements this week by ranking Israeli officials came out, and mainstream picked it up, where Israel was kind of backtracking, or at least confirming that they're not imminently going to go and strike Iran with a preemptive strike. Now the question is, why did that come out? We don't know exactly, but this is a Debka.com, an intelligence article here. No red lines if Israel attacks. So basically, there was rumors that Israel was that an attack on Iran was imminent. Netanyahu says, our edge comes from, watch this, comes from combined human and artificial intelligence. So if you've been following artificial intelligence, AI, and the question was always asked, what if this gets into military hands? What would they do with it? And the fact is that the military has had this for a long time, probably long before we were aware of it, and they are already using it. Netanyahu has confirmed that Israeli military is using artificial intelligence. And so what does that mean? I'm not sure we know what that means on the battlefield at this point, but it's being used, and it's probably well beyond what we know it to be and what we've experienced to be so far. So this AI thing, keep your eyes open. I'm not saying be concerned with it, because ultimately we can't do anything about it. You need to have faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, know that He's returning soon. But times are going to be scary. In these last days, there's going to be incredible things happening, and this is a big part of it. So this speaks a bit more about the exchange of threats that required a bunch of top Israeli folks to come out and say, you know what? No, we're not actually imminently going in there. The latest exchange of threats between Israel and Iran, but Hezbollah ended this week without action. So there was a bunch of threats going on, and Israel had to backtrack. Israeli officials indicated that Iran's Lebanese tool Hezbollah would be targeted before the IDF tackled Iran proper. So this is confirmation that before a preemptive Iranian strike happens, and think about Psalm 83 war, where they take out the inner circle of nations before, or threats, if you will, before they take out the outer circle. Iran is on the outer circle. The inner circle includes Gaza, Lebanon, and threats there. So if Israel decides to go to a greater war with Iran, they need to take out the threats close to them first, i.e. all the proxies, Hezbollah, and all those proxy fighters, before they will be safe enough. So I think what was the suggestion was that they were going to go after them, and that was going to be the precursor to a greater Iranian strike. And that's exactly what they're saying here. Hezbollah would be targeted before the IDF preemptively attacks Iran. So similar to World War III, where it's starting because they're taking out your communications. Well, Iran knows that preemptive strike is coming when Israel starts to go after its immediate circle of proxy fighters around Israel, so that it can be safe and have a buffer to then attack Iran. So that's what's happening, and this, as the war in Ukraine and Russia escalates, I think in the behind the scenes, in the background, almost under our noses without us knowing it, without mainstream really following it, Israel could very, very well and very much start a preemptive strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. And that's exactly what's happening. The rhetoric is increasing and the rumbling is increasing. We're in the last days, and wars and rumors of wars are increasing. And this is confirmation that Iran does have a significant stockpile of uranium. Iran has quietly been enriching stockpiles and now has enough to produce 3 full-scale atomic weapons. So Israel has always said if that they will take out Iran before Iran gets a nuclear weapon, and this confirms that they are very close. So this corroborates the news that that Israel probably is very close to looking at a strike on Iran. And so these warnings could very well be true, that Hezbollah is maybe seeing that Israel is doing something and getting ready for a significant strike. There is a growing sense in Israel that Jerusalem is quickly running out of time to prevent Iran from becoming a nuclear regional power. Iran has been quietly going into an uranium-enriching frenzy. Right now, they have 193 pounds of U-235 enriched to 60%, enough to mass-produce 3 full-scale atomic weapons. And it doesn't stop there, it says. So time is quickly running out. And this Ukraine-Russian thing is a complete cover, if you want to look at it that way, for the Israel-Iran situation. It's advancing, and I think it's going to come down quickly, folks. So pay attention to what's happening in Syria. That's going to be the precursor to the Iranian strike. Maybe a Kiev offensive could be used by the United States to deflect from what Israel is doing in Iran, deflect world media. U.S. intelligence knows that it has the media of the world, in its pocket, with various things and psyops, and so very well they could ramp things up so that the world it doesn't really get concerned about Israel, and so this could actually turn out and almost looked like U.S. supporting of Israel at this time, and make a distraction for them by going on a significant counteroffensive against Russia, although a counteroffensive that may not actually do anything in the long run, just that the U.S. knows that it's going to be a distraction, and in the end they don't care about Ukraine or Ukraine getting back land. So a lot of things happening, folks. Significant. I probably didn't stress enough how important all this information is and how close things are really getting. The first thing they're going to take out are your communications before World War III. China now has the ability to do that. Microsoft agrees. You can check this out. You don't have to go to rt.com to find this out. But this means the web is weaved. We may not have the ability to stop it. Russia is ready and willing to cut internet lines, fiber optic lines, communication lines through Europe. They've documented and scanned it all, surveyed it all. And their friend and ally, China, has the ability to hack U.S. systems, U.S. communications. Remember, look at this. All these sectors, they can basically shut down or disrupt significantly. Communications, manufacturing, utility, transportation, construction, maritime, government, information technology, and education. Folks, that takes down our society. That takes down our economy. How do you destroy the U.S.? By simply destroying the economy. They don't have to kill anybody. They just have to destroy the economy, and that will destroy us. That will bankrupt us all. That will take us back to 100 years ago, if not more. And without technology, folks, it will be Mad Max on the streets in North America. Be ready for it. You haven't seen anything, people. I'll leave there, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your support. We'll see you in the next video.